Maya is with us. How many of you have heard Steve before? Oh, so you're famous. Yeah. There's a lot of things I can say about Steve. I will say a few things, and I've asked some helpers to come up and share a few things as well. So Steve, he's married to Reed. They live in Malaga. Hear a little bit more about that. But who is Steve? I think he's a people walker. I think he's a community builder. He's incredible creative. He's musical. I know he plays the keyboard, the piano. He writes songs. I think he's a foot washer of leaders. He leads often by asking questions. He's a team builder. He is known as a team building guru in Wyram. He's empowering people. He's a discipler. I really think that he is leading through teaching, very much so through also his leadership letters. Can I just see a hand in here? How many of you are receiving his leadership letters? All right, that's not too good, guys. It's not too good. So you will have the invitation here. We will find a way, an easy way for you to get on it. I get 4 of them every time, so I must really need them. Every time I get them, I see the headline. I'm thinking, I don't know if I want to read that, because there's homework every time you read it. It's deep. It gives you meat to wrestle with, and it shapes you. He has developed something called the Leadership Developing Course, something I've tried to get on. I don't know how many times, I still haven't managed. Now I'm here. That Barry Austin and Steve, they made, and I'm sure that a lot of what he's probably sharing here also is part of that course. I know there's a number of people in here that has done the course and been greatly impacted by that. One thing that impacted me as a young leader quite some years ago, that was he said that he invited people into his quiet times sometimes to let people experience how he is meeting with God as well. So it's a leader of great humility and openness, transparency. So I think what he is giving here, what he's providing is really, I think what he is actually doing, that is leadership hostmanship. Do you remember back in Heidelberg? You heard about Dick, he talked about hostmanship and hospitality, but hostmanship. And I think what Steve and Reed, they are offering, that's leadership hostmanship. He creates a safe place. He provides a platform, but a safe place to talk, to open up, to process honestly. It's a place for debriefing. We can talk about the hard stuff, the good, bad, and ugly. He creates a place they create a place of welcome. It's a beautiful place. They have a leadership retreat center in Malaga. It's sunny, it's beautiful. And oftentimes you'll find Steve cook as well. So you have that side of hospitality as well. But I don't want to say more. I'd like to invite my helpers to come up and help me endorse Steve. Okay. Here we have an LDC graduate.
Yeah, and I'm more fresh from that because I did the LDC a year ago, and I can't put into words really the kind of impact that had. And I could say many things about Steve, and I won't because it would take a long time. But I think what I'd love to say is that the atmosphere that they bring into what they do, along with his wife Reed, in Malaga especially, but even when they come into places, it's not just a teaching, it's not just, they bring themselves and they bring the Lord, and it filters into everything. And so when you go to Malaga, even if it's an event that somebody else is organizing, they've brought the atmosphere there, and it's the presence of the Lord, it's relationship, it's community, and I think that, it's like the person just it's expressed in such a beautiful way, and so there's like a holistic and very deep thing, and so I'm really looking forward to what you're going to bring and the atmosphere that I believe you'll bring in to our school.
Hi, Steve. I'm one of those that have been developed by you from a distance, and I kind of break my own rule. I highly recommend his LDC course and his resources, even though I've never done the LDC myself, but I know the fruit of it. And many people casually use the term leadership development, but you are a true developer of people. And I'm also aware that you create community in that context. And I just want to say thank you so much. One of the things that I notice about your content is it's so healthy. And you're not afraid to talk about sometimes difficult subjects, which makes it even more attractive. So thank you so much. Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you. Then we have John. Where's John? Yeah, there you are.
I've seen Steve over decades, and one thing that I admire very much about you, Steve, is you've kept a real focus. Obviously, you've had many roles, from being a national leader, a base leader, a DTS leader, a Western European regional leader, but you've really kept that focus on developing leaders and getting that. I remember the years you were getting that master's, I guess it was, in leadership, and just pursuing, honing those skills. But the wealth of resources that are there for us to use, I think some of us are really quite unaware. I used a booklet for quite a number of years with our leadership team at Harpenden, just using one page of that book, each leadership team meeting, as our input kind of way of discussing together, and really help us to go deeper in our relationships and considering an area. You brought some? Okay, great. Really, really great stuff. And all around the world, I think there would be far fewer people who either remained in YWAM or were able to continue on in that next season of life because of the LDC and all of that input. As well as Steve is just so full of wisdom. Many times he's been the one who's been there to help us through leadership transitions in England and in other parts. He's dealt with lots of difficult situations. Not all of them turn out perfectly, but he's just a really wise and a warrior who has been through many, many battles, and yet a soft heart, lovely heart, love for the church. He's kept investing in the church and things. So I commend him to you. Glean all you can, and but continue to receive from these resources that are available. It's not just while he's here. He and Barry and others have put a lot into writing and producing those resources. So it's great to have you. Let's pray. Father, you've gifted us with Steve and all of the ones who've invested in his life and he into many other lives. And we now open ourselves, our spirits, to receive the impartation that you have for us. And Lord, not only for us to improve or understand certain skills, but that we too might flow in this anointing to impart and raise up other leaders, Lord. And I know the B2B program to be the leader God's called you to be, to raise up young leaders in Europe, Lord. We want to see these kinds of things multiplied, and through our own interactions and lives, to see many, many more people equipped to be well-rounded, godly leaders who sustain the course and bring you great joy. So we receive now from Steve. Bless him, give him clarity in his thinking and in his speech, in his communication. And in this time, we just guard this preciously to receive. Amen.
Amen. Great. Boy, this Steve sounds quite a guy. Yeah. I'd like to meet him sometime. Let me just introduce my clan. This is my wife right in the middle there. She is more the Martha kind of personality. Great to see you. Yeah. She would. She's a high extrovert. She would get to know everybody in the next 5 minutes. I'm a slightly different personality, so I feel like half the person without her here. But my youngest son, who's from Edinburgh, he and his wife are are in Malaga at the moment, so she couldn't make it. Then we've got my son and his wife are in Australia, and then my daughter and her Brazilian husband are in Calgary. So we are a YWAM family spread around the world. But it's a joy to be here today. Thank you for inviting me. It's a real honor, real privilege to be able to spend time with all you leaders. So yeah, thank you. We're going to have fun, I think. So the topic at the moment is going to be team leadership, something I love. If I was to give my kind of passion statement, as we call it, it would be to develop leaders worldwide who live, love, and lead like Jesus. So that's what I've been doing since probably the early 90s and love it. There's nowhere else I'd rather be than in YWAM doing what I'm doing. And I love to do that through coaching, through mentoring, through creating environments for God's presence and for leaders to learn. So, yeah, it's been a joy. And we've been in Spain now for 10 years running this leadership retreat center. We have around 250 leaders coming every year for at least a week from usually 40 nations or more. So we touch the world every year there. It's been a wonderful experience. One of the lessons I learned very early on in leadership teams was the importance of icebreakers, and you all know about icebreakers. One of the things I like about it is that it gets everybody talking immediately, and once everybody has spoken once, it's easier for them to speak again. So I'd like you to find a partner, and as soon as you've found that partner, decide who is going to speak first. And I'm going to give you a word, and I'm going to give you 40 seconds to speak on that word around this topic. So have you got somebody? You know who's going to go first? And then I will give you the word. Okay. So your first word is conversations. Conversations. And I'll give you 40 seconds. Okay, your time is up. Okay, the other person now has another 40 seconds to speak on the word meetings. Going now. Okay, your time's up. So conversations and meetings. Okay, find someone else, find a different partner. I'm going to give you a couple more words. So let's broaden out in our thinking about team. Okay, decide who's going to go first. And your word, or two words, decision making. Okay, decision making. Okay, your time is up. Okay, the other person, your word is conflict. Okay, time up. Okay, last time of doing this, if you find one new person to talk to, one new partner, swap around, talk to someone different, a little bit of movement. Okay, decide who is going first. Okay, and your topic now is team. Talk about team. What does team mean to you? Okay, and last word for the other person. It's the word synergy. You know what that means? It's where one puts 1,000, two puts 10,000 to flight. So there's a synergy, there's a real working together. Okay, that's your time up. If you want to find your seat again. So it sounds like you know a lot about team already. That's what we're going to be talking about. How we get together, how we share our lives, how we make decisions, how we work through difficulties. And hopefully we can come to that place where we experience synergy, where we all function together in such clear unity. You might have heard this story of the race. Let me just share it with you. Once upon a time, there was a rowing team. The Team A and Team B agreed to do an annual rowing race. Each team should contain 8 men. Both teams worked really hard to get in the best shape. The day the race started, both teams were in similar conditions. The A team won by 1 mile. The mood in the B team was really bad. The management decided to win next year. They established a team of analysts. After several detailed analysis, the team found out that Team A had 7 rowers and only 1 captain. Of course, the B team had 7 captains, but only 1 rower. They hired a consulting company and concluded there were too many captains and too few rowers. Surprise, surprise. As of today, there will only be 4 captains in the team, led by 2 managers, 1 top manager and 1 rower. Next year, the A team won by 2 miles. The B team immediately displaced the rower from the team based on his unsatisfactory performance. But the bonus award was paid to the management for the strong motivation of the team showed by their preparation phase. The consulting company prepared a new analysis which showed that the strategy was good, the motivation was okay, but the tool used had to be improved. Currently, the B team is designing a new boat. Okay, where are my blind spots? Sometimes things don't go quite so well in team, and it's always something else other than the way that you're running it. You find that? And we all have those kind of blind spots, and we need to begin to recognize where they are. And the more we understand ourselves and how we function and how our team functions, the more effective we're going to be, obviously. You may have seen this this little diagram before. It doesn't actually come out quite right on there, but the idea is that you you use your pen on the paper, and you're supposed to connect all of the dots using 4 straight lines. How many done this? Yeah, you know there's a trick to it. What is the trick? You have to go outside the box. Yeah. Yeah, see, it's like, if you can see that very well, you have to, not quite going through the dots there, but you get the idea. It's similar to this picture, and you've probably seen this picture before as well. You look at the picture, and some see an old lady, some see a young lady, and some see both. Everybody see the young lady? Everybody see the old lady? And everybody see both? Who's confused right now? You know, sometimes when we think about leadership, we think about it in terms of the way that we've always looked at it. And that is formed through our culture, through our upbringing, through our church. And so what has been modeled to us is the way that we think how I should be a leader. And sometimes we need this paradigm shift. We need to look in another direction and realize, okay, there's another way here. Some cultures only work from top-down kind of style of leadership, and that's their whole culture. So it's very difficult for them to see leadership in another way. And I think in a YWAM context, in a biblical context, we have to say, okay, what is the way, Lord, you want us to lead? What is going to work best? And the Lord has been speaking to us in YWAM these last, many years now, about functioning in team, flattening the organization, and we need to figure out how we're going to do that in the best possible way. Let me ask you this question. What do you expect of a base or a ministry or a DTS leader? What are some of the expectations? Shout some of them out. Shout loud. A good character, yeah, of course. Visionary leadership. We need them to know where they're going, sure. Truthful. Mm-hmm. Relational. Anything else? Capable, yeah. Present. Pastoral. Teachable. Yep. Yeah. Do they need to know anything about finances? Maybe not. Good listener. Young and old. You know, it's incredible that we could make a long list of the expectations we have on leaders. And we expect generally for them to be all things to all people, don't we? They need to have all the gifts in the book and to be very highly qualified. And sometimes, we have this idea of them being, we have different phrases for leaders: king, chief, big cheese, one-man band or one-woman band. It's a hard job being a base or ministry leader or a DTS leader, because there's such high expectations put on you. And I think the reality is that in order to fulfill leadership roles and the expectations of people, we have to have team. There's no way that I can run a retreat center on my own. I need a big team. And just like in this LTS, there's a lot of staff, because it takes a lot of staff to run something well in team and to give time for people and to do all the things that are necessary in running a good program. If we did a quick comparison with a solo leader and a team leader, a solo leader tends to make the decisions, strives for conformity, often receives the glory, directs the team, outlines the goals. And all those things are necessary. We need goals. We need decisions made. We need to be functioning as a team. But when it becomes top-down, it becomes a bit stifling and a bit controlling, and we don't have the ownership. And when we begin to function in team, we're okay with consulting others and what others are thinking, how they're feeling. We're okay with delegating some of the responsibility and authority. We love the diversity and the different giftings that are there. We share the success. It's a team process. And we're into developing each member of that team, sometimes to the point that they leave us. And we create ownership of the vision. So these are all important aspects of why team is vital. If you're trying to take notes, I have sent a file to Hans that he maybe can email out to people with some of the basic points I'm making. How many of you would consider yourself a humble leader? Okay, you just disqualified yourself. No. Very good insight in my right. Yeah, my thoughts go back to when Lynn Green asked me to take on YWAM Scotland years ago. And I had this conversation with Lynn that went something like this. I said, Lynn, as I look around, this was early 80s, as I look at all the leaders I'm looking up to, they're all visionary, charismatic, and dynamic speakers. I don't fit that profile. I'm sorry, I don't think I can take this role. And his response was, well, what do you do? What are you good at? And I said, well, I do like team. I can facilitate team. I function with team. I'm able to work vision out with the team. And he said, well, that's good enough for me. Take the job. And it was interesting as I look back that I probably, as I looked around YWAM, felt like a square peg in a round hole in some ways. And yet, taking on this role, and it just opened up for me the fact that there was room for everybody with all different kinds of giftings. And then I read this business research that said this. Let me just read some of it. He said, when we choose humble, unassuming people as our leaders, the world around us becomes a better place. Humble leaders improve the performance of a company in the long run because they create more collaborative environments. They have a balanced view of themselves, both their virtues and shortcomings, and a strong appreciation of others' strengths and contributions, while being open to new ideas and feedback. These unsung heroes help their believers to build their self-esteem, go beyond their expectations, and create a community that channels individual efforts into an organized group that works for the good of the collective. This isn't, a business article, and they're taking on these Christian values. I find it fascinating. But there is this place for humble leaders, and I think we need to recognize the strengths of those in our team and also our weaknesses. So what kind of team do we have? I'm just going to show you a few pictures of different kinds of sports teams, and I want you to think, what's your team like? Which one do you relate to best? So the Olympic team, all the individuals get medals for the overall team. So they're all doing their own thing, but working towards the overall goal. The cricket team, sometimes the whole team's on the field, other times just the two batsmen. Some of the time, a lot of the fielders out there are getting bored, if you understand cricket. Yeah? Then there's football. So all the team are on the field all the time, but only one player is having the ball at any one time. So they need to strategize together in order to pass that ball and get it into the net, obviously. And then we have the rowing team, all team members working together all the time. One slacks off and they lose. So it's important that they're all totally engaged all the time. I wonder if you relate with one of those on your team. Think about your team for a few moments. I think my leadership retreat team is part-time rowers and part-time Olympic team. Most of us have several hats, and so we're not all there all the time. They're doing their various things, and then we come together to run a retreat, and we're all rowing really hard. But it's good sometimes to know what is the shape of your team and how should it improve. How can it do better? Just have a chat with somebody around the table. What's your team like? Can you relate with one of these pictures? Okay, if you can close off your conversations there. Our teams are going to vary quite a lot, but if we're focused on a task, we need to move towards that rowing team that is going to really put all their energy together and work in synergy. I love this verse from Ephesians 4, and I've put some of my own words in there as well. But this, in many ways, sums up how a team should function for me. Yeah, Paul says, therefore I beg you to lead a life in your teams worthy of your calling, for you've been called by God. Always be humble and gentle, especially when working through difficult issues. Be patient with each other, making allowance for each other's faults, remembering that you have faults as a leader too. Make every effort to keep yourselves united in the Spirit, binding yourselves together with peace. Taking time to share relationally, seek God, spend quality time together. Yeah, if we could model our team around these kind of values, I think we would become a very good performing team. I read an article about the Marines some time ago, and looking at some of their qualities. Actually wrote a leadership letter on it as well. It says, if you watch Marines line up for their food in the mess hall, the most junior eat first, followed in rank order, with the leaders eating last. They view the responsibility of their leader is to look out for the well-being of the rest of the team. Interesting. Whereas many people think leadership is about rank, power, and privilege, Marines believe that true leadership is the willingness to place others' needs above your own. Interesting, isn't it? What's their core ingredient is empathy. I can remember when I first took on this national role again, we had a DTS come in, and it was one of those challenging DTSs. And one of the girls had just slipped in right at the end, hadn't gone through the application process because her father was a big pastor kind of guy, and he'd come and visited the base and, you know, kind of begged and pleaded for me to take her on at the last moment. And kind of intimidating guy, and me not knowing so much about leadership back then, didn't feel very comfortable, but I just went along with it. And this girl caused us all kinds of problems, right from day one. And it came to a point where she was creating so much disruption that I had to ask her to leave. And I called up her father, and I had to hold the phone out here because of the kind of words he was shouting over the phone to me. And he was saying things like, I'm going to make sure that you never lead another thing in your life. I'm going to report you to Lynn Green and to Lauren Cunningham and to every leader in YWAM. They're going to know that you are not a leader. And on he went. I was shaking when I got off the phone. This is in the first 2 months of leading. And I thought, okay, well, that's it. Maybe I should just go and pack up right now. I was dreading what Lynn's response was going to be. And he called me up, said, Steve, I've had a pastor on the phone. I said, yeah, I know. He said, don't worry. You know, I've worked with these kinds of intimidating guys before. He said, whatever decisions you've made, I'm going to back you up. And we spoke for 20 minutes on the phone, and I just came off feeling so relieved. Here was somebody, a leader I greatly respected, who had empathy for me. He understood where I was at, what I was doing. Now, you wouldn't call Lynn Green a kind of feely, emotional, fuzzy, kind of warm kind of person. But you wouldn't think of the Marines being that kind of people either. And so this word empathy took on a new meaning for me. And I think we need to have this word in our team context where we're able to listen, we're able to understand, where we're to put ourselves in the other person's shoes and to be able to work with one another and encourage one another. I've never forgotten that. And I've been able to do that for many others since. Here's another key scripture about team. Ephesians 4:11. Instead, speaking the truth in love, we will in all things grow up into him who is the head, that is Christ. From him the whole body, joined and held together by every supporting ligament, grows and builds itself up in love, so each part does its work. And as we think about all these verbs, this is what a team needs to do for one another. Joining, holding, supporting, growing, building, loving, working. As you think about your team, could you add those words to describe your team? We need to be able to do that. We need to work on those words. And how can we make our teams so much more effective? I'd like to share a little leadership model with you. It was made famous by John Adair, who lived in the last century. He was a management guru back then. He called it the 3-circle model. I've added a circle to it. But it's a very simple model, but I think very useful. It starts out with the first circle being task. And we've been given the Great Commission, go into all the world and preach the gospel to every creature. And every team, as it comes together, needs to understand what its task is. It's one of the first things of business that you do. Okay, what are we here for? Where are we going? What are we doing? We need to initiate that task and organize that task and make decisions and implement that vision. And we have one of our values being that. Number 5, be visionary. So the task is before us continually, and we have a founder's circle that encourages that long-term vision, ending Bible poverty, and all kinds of wonderful vision out there for us. The second circle is team. And we're given the great commandment. We're to love one another and to work with one another and encourage one another. All those one another's of Scripture. So team, very, very vital. How do we work as a team in order to be the most effective we can? We've got another wonderful value, functioning in teams, number 10. I think if we lived up to this value, we would be doing amazing things. When was the last time you read this? YM is called to function in teams in all aspects of ministry and leadership. We believe that a combination of complementary gifts, callings, perspectives, ministries, and generations working together in unity at all levels of our mission provides wisdom and safety. Seeking God's will and making decisions in a team context allows accountability, contributes to the greater relationship, motivation, responsibility, and ownership of the vision. That's a good statement. Yeah? Okay, third circle is the individual. And know that scripture in John 13. They'll know you are disciples if you have love for one another. Each individual in that team is important. They have their own character, their own gifting, their own context. And we need to understand what that context is in order to bring them in the team in the best possible way. And again, we've got all kinds of things to say about that in YWAM. Value the individual. Number 14. And of course, the fourth circle is the God circle. We have that team in the context of God in our midst and functioning with Him. And so the question is, as we think about our team, do your objectives only involve the task? How team-oriented are we? Have we got time? Do we care for the individual? And what part does God play in that overall team? So there's this little model we'll be working at for the next little while. Of course, there's values that we've got for God too. Knowing God, making God known, hearing God's voice, practicing worship, intercessory prayer. So let's just take a few minutes, and maybe we'll take a break right after this. Just thinking about those 4 areas on your team. So let's go back to that model. And I've got some of the gifts perhaps that link in with these. How are you doing in your team? Share around your tables. When you think of the task, how you function as team, do you care for the individual? And where is God in your team? How much time do you spend creating that environment to hear the Lord as a team? Okay, just share for a few moments on that, and then we'll take a little break.
You are, of course, welcome to keep talking, but we will take like a 10-minute break now. So if you need to use the facilities or get some air, then do that. So we'll meet back here in 10 minutes. 12:10, we'll be back. Okay, so we have a break now, and we will be back in here on your seats, around your tables, 12:10. Yeah? Okay, so we'll start again. So please find your seats again. If you lost people to outside, can someone just call them in? Hello, people. We want to start again. There's no movement. So I'll just go out and actually try.
Okay, everybody, if you can stop talking, and we're going to gather again. You'll notice that there are some something on your table here. There's only 13 of these. I'd like you to gather around tables, and we need a table clear to be able to play this game. So if you could join around the table that you see one of these envelopes. So find a seat around a table with an envelope. Staff, you're going to have to watch on. You're not involved. So gather around a table with one of these envelopes. And we need, you're going to have 5 people playing the game. 5 people round the table playing the game, and then we'll have other observers. So if you're on a table with no envelope, move to one where there is one. Couple more people down here and down here. And your staff here too, so we need other. I don't have enough for staff. Okay. Okay. One more person for this team. Okay, you need one more? Someone join this team, whoever it is. Okay, are we all clear? So you need a clear table in front of you. So if there's anything on the table, if you can put it on the floor right now. And so this is all about the task. So that table, you need to get the computers off the table, please. You need a free table in front of you. Otherwise, you won't be able to play. So this table, just, put the stuff on the floor for now. Only a few minutes. Okay. Now, I've got a few instructions for you, so you need to listen hard. So empty the contents of the envelope onto the table. Some are small, so don't scatter it around everywhere. And between the 5 of you, separate out the colors. So someone will have the yellow piece, some will have the orange, some will green, some purple, etc. So here's the rules. 5 people sitting in a circle with observers watching outside the circle. Each person is to end up with the same size square in front of them. Okay. There is no speaking in this exercise. You cannot speak to anybody around the circle. You cannot make sign languages. Use sign language. You can't point and gesticulate in any way. You cannot take a piece from anyone else. You can give a piece to someone else in their hand. You don't place it on the table where you think it should go. for them, okay? And the task is finished when every group member has a completed square that is exactly the same size in front of them. And then you can, raise your hands and make a loud noise to say you're finished. Are we clear on those rules?
Every square is the same, like
5 squares exactly the same, ending up in front of you. You need to use all the pieces. And from this point on, I don't want to hear any more speaking. No more talking. So that you should be able to hear a pin drop. Okay, so you can go now, and I'll come around if there's any problems. How are we going? Still working? Okay, if you've finished, you can chat in your group. What did you learn from doing that task? Okay, if I could get your attention. Let me ask first of all, how many of you broke the rules? You know, it's very interesting. I play a lot of team games, and what you do in the game is often what you do in real life. So I just want you to be aware, if you're a rule breaker, as a leader, it's important to know when is it right to break the rules. Because sometimes you have to, but when is it right? Okay, let's just debrief a little bit here. Who was willing to give away pieces of the puzzle? Were you all willing to give pieces away? You know, sometimes we want to do it ourselves. We keep those pieces ourselves. We work on it. We get frustrated. But we don't think about giving it away for someone else to work on it. You know, there's something about an ego that gets in there. I'm going to do this if it kills me. And sometimes the best thing we can do is to get somebody else in on the job and give it away. Did anyone fall into this trap where you finished your little puzzle in front of you, so you divorce yourself from the game? Well, I'm done. Did that happen anywhere? Does that happen in team? Oh, yeah. We have to be careful to stay engaged in the process in team. And just because our little bit is done, let's still keep focused. So we've kind of said that already. Were you mentally engaged in putting other people's squares together? You saw them struggling. You're desperate to get your hands in there. You're frustrated when they can't seem to put this puzzle together, and they just got that one piece round the wrong way, and it just will not go. And and you didn't want to break the rules, did you? Some of you did, though. The temptation to put your hand in there and fix it for them. Do we do that all the time? We step in, we force our way in, we do it for them, and in the process, they haven't learned anything. That's not how we train leaders. Yeah, let's respect one another's space. Yeah, so frustration, anxiety level. How many of you found your anxiety level was going up a little? Well, especially when one of the team has won already, you know, and you're still struggling. You've only got one square on the table and they've finished. Who's competitive? You know, that hurts when you're not winning. You know, we are going to have frustration in team, and it's all a question of how we cope with that and how we can chill out sometimes. Was there a critical turning point at which the group began to cooperate? And I'm sure some of you realized somebody were working on their pieces and realized they couldn't get anywhere, so they pushed all their pieces to someone else. You have a go at it. Yeah. Well, there's lots of things we can learn about team from a little game like that. If you want to put all those pieces back in the envelopes, that would be helpful. Thank you. Well done to this team. Yes. Just because you won that game doesn't mean to say that you're the best team, though. One of the things that is important about the task is making sure our agendas are developmental. One of the things I've noticed often in leadership teams as they get together, they're often putting out fires. They're dealing with the urgent. They're dealing with issues that are hitting them right now. And it's all putting out fires, dealing with the present things, and what is left is this developmental agenda. And as a leadership team, we do have to be thinking future. We do have to be thinking where are we going, what we're doing, what needs developing. And so having these kinds of discussions together as a team and taking time to develop the vision. We know we've got to do that. We have to set aside time specifically and guard that time so none of those just practical daily decisions take over. And evangelistic development. We all know our strengths and our weaknesses and our base or our team. Some of these we'll be doing well. Others we need to spend time to think through how are we going to develop in this area. People development. How are we developing the people on our team? How can we do that better? Brainstorming as a team to do that. Sometimes we've brought people in who've got leading a specific ministry. We bring them into the leadership team. We get them to give a little report, and then everybody around the team will brainstorm with them how they can strategize, how they can do a better job, how they can develop what they're involved in. And more minds working on that together is just so, so helpful. Spiritual development. How are you going to grow in your spiritual lives as a team? Again, a little brainstorm, thinking through what's important, what's necessary. Structure. Our structure needs to change. Sometimes it gets too rigid. We need to be ready to change the structure to be able to serve what we're doing rather than serving the structure. Training school development. Probably a little better at that. Recruiting. You know, sometimes we just rely on websites to do it all for us. Yeah, that's not the greatest way. We need to be out there. We need to have strategies for connecting with people and recruiting into schools and onto staff. Communication, fundraising, and team building. Taking time as a team to develop in your ability to relate, in your ability to have skills that are going to really move you on as a team. So developmental. So as you think of your team, think what are some of the areas down that list that we need to work on? Some that we need to spend time in. And make sure in your next leadership team meeting you take some time to brainstorm, seek the Lord and come up with some new answers. Okay, let's think about the individual needs for a moment. This is the third circle. Philippians 2 says, "Then make me truly happy by agreeing wholeheartedly with each other, loving one another, working together with one mind and purpose. Don't be selfish. Don't try to impress others. Be humble, thinking of others as better than yourselves. Don't look out for your own interests, but also the interests of others." Maybe your process of dealing with individuals that aren't working so well is like this. Does anyone else feel their needs aren't being met? Yeah. Now, as we think about the individual, every individual coming into your team has a history, and we come with positive and negative baggage. We come from a certain kind of family where we've picked up all kinds of character issues and and maybe we've had trauma, maybe we've had certain sicknesses over our life, maybe we've had some near-death experiences. It was interesting talking with my family and just how many of us had had near-death experiences when we're young. Yeah, bad experiences from the past. What are some of the character qualities that we've got as individuals? What's our calling and commitment? What's God put on my heart? And is there a space to actually share that in this team? With gifts and abilities. We all come with gifts and abilities. I was surprised to know that one person on my team actually played the sax. Been with us for a couple of years, and they'd never never told me that. Suddenly we want to get them involved in worship. Yeah, do we have a chance to get to know people in that way? Personality. Do you understand how one another thinks and feels and functions? And so part of team building is to work on understanding that personality difference. Their present situation. You know, sometimes we can have some difficult issues that we're going through. We come into that team meeting, we're feeling a bit rough, we're feeling disappointed, a bit down. Yeah, it pays to take notice, to be aware, and to find out what's going on. Ask some questions. Have a little bit of prayer time for that person. And then the needs in the team. And there's some classic needs that we all have when we join a team. And here's 5 of those needs. The need to influence. When you come into a team, do you want to influence how the team functions, and how much do you want to influence it? Do you want to be influenced, and how much? Will they listen to you on this team? Can you be involved in the decision making? So influencing, I know for me that is a very high area that I want to be involved in. That's personal need. Recognition. Will my contribution be recognized? Will I be able to have a key role in this task? Will I be valued on this team? Yeah, for some personalities that is very important. Inclusion. Where do I belong? Where do I fit in? Do I make contact? Do others make contact with me? How much can I express on this team? Yeah, it's important that whatever's going on, there's that sense of, yeah, I'm one of the team, I'm included, I'm a part. Affection. We vary greatly on this area. How close are we going to be as a team? Do I want to share openly? Am I able to share openly? Is it safe to share? Can I confront? Can I be confronted? How much of me do I want to let out on this team? I was with a church leadership team the last couple of years, and one of the ladies on the team, she had a high need of affection. And after the first couple of leadership team meetings, it was very clear to her there was going to be no personal sharing on this team. It was all task. It was all organizing meetings, dealing with conflicts. And she quickly decided to leave. And fulfillment. How much will I enjoy the task? How much will I enjoy being a part of this team? Yeah, could I see myself doing this for a while? Will there be fruit that I'm able to see develop? Yeah, will I come away with that sense of, yeah, boy, I'm really fulfilled in my life being a part of this team? So think for a moment just about these qualities, and next slide. There we go. Which individual needs is priority for you? So out of these 5, I think if you if you would pick out 1 or 2 of them, what would they be for you? And are you aware of the individual needs of others on your team? Because you're going to change the way you function in that team if you know what their priorities are. Okay, so think for a moment yourself, and then perhaps you just want to compare notes with the person sitting next to you to say, okay, these are my needs, this is what I think are the needs in my team. And perhaps I need to adjust how we function in this team to work a little better. Okay, take a few moments there. Okay. Might be good for you to, next time you have a team meeting, find out what are the individual needs on that team. See how you're functioning, see if you can improve your quality of team. Okay, let's focus on the team circle now. How do you feel about this statement? Together we will be considerably more successful reaching for the same objectives rather than standing apart, concerned about who will be first. Again, it's linking into the need of the team and functioning as team rather than just having heroes that are doing all the work and wanting to be first. I think over the years I've seen that there's 5 gifts that we need in our leadership teams to function well. And I just want to lay out those 5 gifts to you. And Hans, you've got a questionnaire. We won't have time to fill that in at the moment, but perhaps that will help to clarify, your order of these gifts. So let's just take a quick look at these gifts. Okay, this the first one. What comes to mind when you hear the word explorer? Yeah, great movie. Pioneer, yeah. New things in new ways. South Pole, yeah. Looking forward, yeah. Going where no man's gone before. Making new connections. Yeah, we have some people in our team, or we need them, who are these. The biblical word would be apostolic. They're seeing things ahead. They're seeing the big picture. They're visionary. They're pioneering, developing the right vision for the group, wanting to make it happen. And we are a visionary movement, and so we look to apostolic leadership quite a lot. And so without that kind of leadership in our in our circles, we're going to struggle. So a lot is dependent on this first gift. How many of you would consider yourselves apostolic in nature? Yeah, I would expect there to be quite a few here. But if your whole team is made up of apostolic leaders, then it might not be the best kind of team. Ephesians 4 talks about a number of gifts that are needed. Okay, what comes to mind when you hear the word architect? Builder? Planner? Facility? Possibility? Stability. Yeah, you can pray for me. I'm going deaf. As long as you can hear, shout them out. Calculations. Vision. Implications. Beauty. Design. Yeah. I love this word architect. They see the big picture. They need to see it in order to then kind of draw a plan down of what it looks like and how we're going to get there. I call these guys operational leaders. It's maybe not the best term, but that's the term I've come to. And they're builders. They see the big picture, but they want to build something on the ground. Take those ideas and that vision and bring it down to earth So they're organizing, implementing leadership, helping each person know their role in accomplishing the plan, creating structure and systems to make it happen. How many of you would see yourself with this kind of gift? Operational type giftings. Yeah, not so many. Put your hands up high again. Yeah, we we need these gifts. Some people have these two together, and that makes a very powerful person who sees the big picture, sees all the ideas, and actually puts in the plan to make it happen as well. Often there's a partnership, though, that goes on with these two gifts, which is, when you get the right people together, it becomes very, very powerful. Yeah, this is a word we're more familiar with. What comes to mind when you hear the word shepherd? Yeah. Yeah, we know the biblical picture of a shepherd looking after sheep. Obviously, he's wanting to develop those sheep, and the wool makes money out of it too. So it's not just caring, but it's into production too. Wanting to see growth, wanting to multiply the herds. So yeah, this is the people-oriented, caring, pastoral kind of leadership. Helping people progress, develop, meet their ongoing needs. Such a vital aspect of leadership. Who would see themselves with this kind of leadership? Yeah, quite a few. Cool. Okay, the next one. What comes to mind when you hear the word watchman or troubleshooter? Aware, yeah. Foresight. Prophetic. Security. Detail. Okay, you go, well, you find out where the problem is. So you have to see all the parts. Mm-hmm. Troubleshooter, yeah, they're looking for where the problem is. Mm-hmm. Practical. Yeah, I'm thinking for this kind of person is I'm thinking about the prophetic, those that, discerning what God's doing. It's finding some of those root issues, pinpointing problems in our foundations that we need to deal with. It's looking for out there too. Where is the enemy trying to attack us? And of course we know Paul talks about the apostles and the prophets working together. There's a key relationship there. How many of you would see yourselves having this kind of leadership? Yeah. You didn't put your hand up, Jan. Yeah. Okay. And fifth one, what comes to mind when you hear the word facilitation or facilitator? Facilitator. Making room. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Bridging. Listening. Mm-hmm. Yeah, getting people involved. Yeah, team building, peacemaking, sharing, convening. Helping people to function together with their different gifts, bringing out the best in people. Okay, how many of you would see yourself with this kind of gift? Yeah, you're often there, you draw others in, you're kind of the glue to the team. This is a very important part. Now, most of us have a couple of these gifts, but it's clear that as a one leader, we're not going to be able to cover all these gifts. We need a team to fulfill these. And it's like putting, jigsaw together. As we come together in the team with these various gifts, we we make the full picture. And it's it's very helpful when we have all those gifts working together. The apostolic looks out. The operational looks down into the team. The pastoral is there to meet those ongoing needs and build people. The prophetic is looking up to the Lord, and the team builder joins it all together. And you need that team builder often because these gifts kind of sometimes are opposing. So you've got one looking out with the vision, seeing where we need to go next. The pastor holding people back because they're saying, we've got too much on already. We haven't got the energy to go there. We've got to have this balance. And sometimes there's this tension in the team, and you need somebody to manage that tension. And often that facilitator, that team builder, is the person to do that. These are some of the qualities in some of these gifts: courage and faith, patience, perseverance, humility and love, fear of God and discernment. Now, we need all of those, but people with these particular gifts will have a strength in that quality. And we all need to grow in all of those, obviously, but it's nice to have that strength. It's something they don't have to work at necessarily. It just comes naturally into that flow, and where we can lean on one another for those gifts. Quickly, how does going back to the three circle here, task, individual, and team, where does the apostolic focus on? On the task. What about the prophetic? Yeah, I think probably all three. There's different kinds of prophetic, isn't there? And if you've got a prophetic kind of ministry, you need to know what's your capacity and where you're focusing, whether it's individual, whether it's team, whether it's task. Some people can move between them all. Some people have their specific area. So you need to know. What about the pastoral? Yeah, people-oriented, so both individual and team. And then the operational task, and they're managing people, so the team as well. Yeah. And the team builder. So the team builder does all three, yeah. Links everybody together as the glue. So it's clear that we need to function with these gifts very well, to understand one another well, and to give one another room. I'll just go on to this one. As we think about these gifts being used over time, I don't know if you've ever been on a team where you've got an apostolic leader that every week has a new idea and a new vision, and you come to the Monday morning meeting and you're dreading, another new vision. Sometimes the apostolic has to pace themselves in how many visions they're going to bring on the table, and there needs to be kind of a flow. So give people a space to be able to take hold of that last vision and begin to work it through. The prophetic course is the same. You don't want to come to a meeting where you're always being told to repent of this, that, and the other. And so there needs to be a nice balance, but there's so many things the Lord wants to speak into our situations, and so let's make room for that. The operational tends to kick in after the operational has kind of got its peak, or the apostolic has got its peak, and then the operational works to work with that vision and develop it. So we all have our kind of timing in this process. Pastoral often is the slowest to move on. Initially, when we have that vision, the excitement of that vision gets us all going, gets us all moving, and it's enough. But if vision draws us in, it's relationships that maintain us. And so that's where the pastoral gifting grows over time. And of course, the team builder's right there in the middle, helping us to remain consistent. Just a little word on the sigmoid curve. This is a curve of life and death, and it's the rise and fall of an empire. It's the start and the finish of a base, and it's a good picture of how we grow and decline in our ministry. So initially, it takes a lot of energy to get something going, to initiate something. And then we begin to grow in that curve and we become productive. And then it can kind of plateau out and we can die. So life and death. I was at a meeting years back when, it must have been just as the wall fell. And we were having a European conference right after that. And all the Central and Eastern European leaders felt that they were right at the bottom of this curve. Everything was new. We were having people flooding into Central and Eastern Europe, starting new ministries, pioneering here, there, and everywhere. And it's very exciting, very young leaders coming in. The Western European leaders were all up on the top of the curve. Many of the bases were empty. Many of the original bases that were pioneered just were really struggling. So we had base after base. Lausanne was struggling. It was empty. It was a shell. We had struggles in Hurlock with leadership. We had struggles in Gault-la-Forêt in France. We had challenges up in Resterness. List one after the other bases that had been there for many, many years that now were struggling because they were up at the top of this curve. The apostolic leaders had all left, and the operational and pastoral leaders were there trying to kind of maintain, and they needed new apostolic leaders coming in. They needed to start a new curve. I've just kind of said that. So this is the situation we've got where, as we're on that productive curve, heading upwards, we need to right then think about starting a new curve. What is the fresh vision that needs to come? And I know in Europe we started having conferences all about the apostolic and releasing the apostolic and unlocking the apostolic and talking about pioneering again. And if you were around in those years, every conference was about this because we saw this was the incredible need that we had. And now as we look back and we see the number of new teams and cities that have been pioneered over the last years, we recognize, there was a new curve that started at that point. And now, we have many, many young apostolic leaders functioning and working. And it's very encouraging. I think we're running out of time, but this is just an important question for us to ask, and maybe we can just have a few minutes around the table. Consider what kind of team would form if each of the leaders is dominating. And then the second, what happens if one of the leaders is missing? So if you've got a team that is dominated by the apostolic or dominated by the prophetic or the operational or pastoral or team builder, what happens with that team? And then what happens if you've got one of those leaders missing? What is the shape of that team? So just take a few minutes to think about that, because you're going to recognize you need all these giftings in operation for it to function effectively. So take a few minutes around your team, just going through when one is dominating and when one is missing.
Just one more minute. I'm sure that Steve just opened up a massive conversation where we can see ourselves in a number of different teams we are working in or have been working in, I think. So thank you so much, Steve, for everything you gave this morning. It has been very enlightening, I think. There's homework for all of us. And I think we probably also both saw ourselves, our strengths and our weaknesses. And maybe we also saw our teammates, and I hope that we were able to appreciate them more as well. But it's lunch now, and I just have a few announcements. One is Helen. Where do we have Helen? There's still more tickets. So some of you have ordered bus tickets. Please go to her immediately after here. Then it's lunch, and I don't know if you noticed, but in this little flyer here, you see there's a number of lunch places that is listed. Not that I know where they are, but they're in town somewhere. Otherwise, you can check out if you have internet, you can look up TripAdvisor and things like that to find lunch. And I really suggest that you find that you go for lunch with your processing group leaders because they have the money. So find your processing group leader. Then we meet again where Steve, he'll continue with us at 4 o'clock. It's not here, so we will have to pack up all your things, we'll have to bring everything out from here. We meet at Club, I can't say this. That place, yeah, thank you. What? No.